This program is presented by Drake University on iTunes U, a service of the Drake Telemedia Center.
Welcome everyone to our January Student Leadership Development Series guest speaker. We are very fortunate in the college to have our own leadership program for pharmacy students, and that is being taught by Walmart Pharmacy. Today we have one of our Walmart representatives with us to talk to you about conflict management, and so please join me in welcoming Gwen McWilliams.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for coming. I know it's kind of late on Friday afternoon, and believe me, when I was a student and still am, I'm living for the weekend. So thank you for coming and taking the time out. Hopefully it'll be beneficial, kind of fun and interactive. But as Jenny said, my name is Gwen McWilliams. I am a pharmacist. I graduated from the College of Pharmacy a little bit back in St. Louis, and then transitioned to working for Walmart about 9 years ago. Both as a pharmacy manager and in this role. So I can answer a number of questions for you about being a pharmacist and things like that if you should have them. But today I just really want to talk to you about conflict management. Unfortunately and fortunately, you will come across conflict a ton of times when you're wanting to be a leader in the future, which is good. It develops us and takes us to a new level. But we just need to know how to handle that conflict so it can be beneficial. So I'm not going to really delve into, per se, what is conflict. But what I am going to do is just make you aware of how you handle conflict and then give you some tools to handle yourself and conflict in that situation. I do want it to be kind of relaxed, so if you should have any questions at any time, feel free to, I don't know, raise your hand or shout it out or whatever you want to do. But I really, again, just want to make you aware of how you handle conflict. So if you think about it, let's think about our basic, what is conflict and how do we all work together to achieve one goal. So a good example of this is a piano. A piano just has 243 strings, and if they all are in tune, it makes great music and it makes great cohesiveness. And if one of those is out of whack, it can sound crazy and have a lot of dysfunction when you're looking at becoming leaders in the future for your organizations. So, an overview of conflict. Well, what is conflict? It's pretty easy, right? You ready now? Please tell me you do. You're in pharmacy school. Conflict? What's conflict? Yeah. Exactly. It's pretty easy. It's just to come into a collision, disagreement, or be contradictory in variance or opposition. And essentially, it just means to clash with somebody. And again, as I said earlier, conflict is not negative. It can be negative if handled in a negative way, but as we all know, any good idea and any change comes about with some conflict. So again, a difference of opinion with what I think versus what you think, what I want versus what you want, and my opinion versus your opinion. Again, to make change, it's current practice versus future advancement. So how do you get someone to understand your opinion? So let's say you have a conflict and it's about something new, a new direction. What if you were never open to that? What if you would never consider someone's idea, and what if it was shut down because of the way you handled it and the way they handled it and the interactions that ensued? So basically, let's say, for example, this will somewhat date myself, but cell phones. When I was in late 90s in high school, cell phones were like bag phones. Far cry from the iPhone, right? So like, what if no one would have ever wanted to change that? We'd be carrying around these nasty little phones or big phones, and it's just bad. The internet, another. And what in pharmacy? What kind of conflict are there in pharmacy about future practices right now? Can anybody give me an example? What year in school are you guys? Okay, then never mind. So I'll give you one. So anyway, so in conflict, really kind of right now we're looking at, there's how to take care of patients. So we all know about over 90. Obviously change from that, you have to counsel, has been a positive thing. But what if that would have never happened? Where would we be now as pharmacists? Who knows, right? So really what we're looking at now is, medication therapy management, and then going into with reimbursement, do we reimburse based on MTM outcomes, or do we look at based on compliance? So that's kind of a hot topic right now in how to reimburse and improve patient outcomes. But it is a conflict right now. But again, I am sure that it's going to be a positive outcome for our patients. So again, conflict is definitely a good thing if handled correctly. So look at yourself first. You have to understand who you are and how you handle things in order to be effective in your conflict leadership style. Okay, all right, so let's take a test, okay? So we're going to look at it. There's no right or wrong answers. Just answer them honestly, and then we will go through them, and it'll be very interesting. I found this to be a very interesting exercise, so definitely answer them and then total them up, and I'll give you about 5-10 minutes to do so, okay? All right, looks like almost everybody's done, so we'll go ahead and get started. So pretty much what it is these columns that you totaled up down here will tell you your conflict management style. So whichever one has the highest score is your tendency to how you handle conflict in a given situation. So we liken what these are to pretty much an animal. I mean, it's pretty easy to sum up, and it's actually very interesting. Now, keep in mind, there are a number of things to think about when you're assessing your conflict. None of these are bad, okay? So none of them are bad. It just maybe shows your tendency, and also know that tendencies to handle conflict can change in a given situation. So your tendency to handle conflict in a certain way professionally could definitely be different than personally. So just kind of apply that and have fun with it, okay? All right. Sounds good. All right, so who is the W's? Who are the W's? Nobody? Nobody's a W? Okay, sounds good. All right, well. So if you were a W, then you could be likened to a turtle. You handle conflict by withdrawing. You revert to withdraw in order to avoid conflict. So essentially, you don't like conflict. You're willing to give up your personal goals and relationships so you don't have conflict. You stay away from people and issues that involve conflict. And you feel it's hopeless to try to resolve conflict. And because you feel helpless, they feel it's easier to completely withdraw from a situation than rather to face it. Sometimes that is the right answer, but just know that if that's how you handle conflict, there are other ways to handle it also. Okay, next column, the F. Who's an F? So am I going to get to the end and everybody's going to be a C? Is that what it is? No? Okay, so no one's an F? Okay, all right. Okay, so F is for shark, which really isn't, but it's forcing, okay? So a shark is forcing. You overpower by forcing people to accept your solution. Your goals are of great importance, and relationships, really not that important to you. Your goals must be accomplished no matter the cost, and you really don't care if you're liked or not. In the view of conflict, there's always one winner, one loser, and they want to be the winner, always. So essentially, the complete opposite of a turtle, okay? All right, so who's S? Okay, S. I know it's hard. I had kind of close ones too, right? You're an S? Okay, good. And you are you an S? Okay, you can be both. Sounds good. Okay, all right. So if you are an S, you're smoothing. You're a teddy bear. Your relationships are of great importance. Your goals have little importance. You strive to be accepted and well-liked. And you believe that conflict should be avoided in favor of harmony. And you're afraid that if conflict continues, someone will get hurt and ruin a relationship. You feel that conflict cannot be discussed without damaging relationships, and you'll give up your own goals in order to preserve relationships. Now again, just remember when you're doing these, you can have a lot of them that are close together. And believe it or not, I'll go ahead and reveal what I was, which is somewhat embarrassing, so you guys don't have to, but I was actually a shark, which is interesting considering I'm a pretty laid-back person, but I guess maybe not so much at work. So now when I have conflict, I am more aware of how I handle things. So none of it's bad. I think the shark is actually the worst one you can be. So just, it can all go up from there. So you guys are all good. So anyway, okay, next, who's the first C? You, okay. So I was right, everybody's the last C. I'm just kidding. All right. And you were too? All right. All right. Well, you are foxes. You're compromising. You're moderately concerned with your own goals. You're moderately concerned with relationships with other people. You seek compromise, and you'll give up a portion of their goals in order to persuade the other party to give up a part of theirs. So you just want to compromise. They seek to find a solution to conflict on middle ground. And that's really it. A fox, I mean, if you think about a fox as an animal, that's kind of how they are, right? And again, none of these are bad. I always like to disclaim that. So, all right, so that brings us up to the last one. Who is a C? The last C. Oh my goodness, you guys are already really smart. Okay, you guys are going to be really good pharmacists. Okay, good. I'll give you that thing in a minute. But okay, so as far as the last one, an owl is confronting. Your high value on both goals and relationships. Conflicts are problems that haven't been solved yet. And you seek solutions that meet both their own goals and the goals of the other party. You see conflicts as an opportunity for a positive outcome, which will reduce tension between two parties or people. And you shoot for a win-win relationship. So was anybody surprised by what they were and how they came out? I know I was. No one? No one surprised you guys? They're all smart. Yeah, no, I think that there are definitely, you handle conflict in different ways at different times in your career and in different situations. I think that, maybe me being a shark initially, I don't think I would test that way again now. Being more educated and more trained in leadership, because obviously that's fine if that's your personality tendency. There's nothing wrong with that, but just knowing that. But personally, I would say that my kids run over me, so I'm probably something else. So I think that, again, there's different situations to be different ones. It's just good to know how you react so you can maybe watch that and not be too one way or the other when you're addressing conflict. So it's not just about your personality. That's a huge part of it, but there are many more layers to conflict management when you become a leader. It's about the message, and specifically how your message is delivered, right? When you're really wanting to deliver a forceful message or you have to have a tough conversation, it's really about delivering a slap with a handshake. You really want to, it's all about how you come across. I've been in a number of meetings where there's differences of opinion, and sometimes people can be overtly aggressive in sharing those, and they had a good point, but because the way they were sharing those, it really was just not, it just didn't work out, and people shut down. So definitely look at how you're delivering your message. And again, the higher up in leadership that you become, the more conflict you're going to manage every day. So what do we do when we need to have a tough conversation with somebody? Well, don't blindside them. Let's say I'm giving an evaluation of one of my pharmacists, and I do that. I do not want to say, oh, everything is great, you're doing a wonderful job, and then all of a sudden call them in for their evaluation and give them a bad evaluation. That's not fair. And it definitely will bring tension in your relationship, so don't blindside them. Do it in person, because again, you probably know, this is a whole separate topic, email etiquette, phone etiquette, can be definitely a little touchy. So sometimes what comes across in an email may be a different message as in person. So definitely take into consideration and try to do it face-to-face. Set up a proper time and place to have the discussion, and don't intimidate them. Don't do it in public. Don't do it around their peers. Don't really do it around anybody. Just ask them to come to the side and say, there's a time I need to speak with you about something. Are you available? And then pick a pretty neutral environment. Let's say, again, you have to deliver a tough conversation, and they walk in, knowing that something's coming, and you have all these other people lined up that are going to be there. It's really kind of attacking. Just really watch and make sure to set up a pretty neutral environment. Give them a warning, like we were talking about, and a chance to prepare for the discussion. Let them think it through. Maybe they recognize that they have opportunities or that there are opportunities in the situation, and then they're okay and they're willing to talk about that. But again, give them a chance to prepare. Don't blindside them. Don't get emotional. I know this is one that we all have, probably have to keep in check. The more you care about something, the more emotional you are about it. So stick to the facts. You just don't want to get angry, frustrated, Be prideful. That's a huge one. We all want to be right. But again, don't get emotional. Stick to the facts, because if you stick to facts, those don't change. But the more emotionally invested you are in the situation, the stronger you're going to feel, and the likelihood that you deviate from those facts will go down if you stick to the facts. Do use agreeable terminology. So think back to when you last got into a conflict with somebody. When you use terms like but, however, although, what is that conveying? What is that conveying to you? Well, essentially, you're minimizing how the other person feels. So you're saying, well, I see your point, but you're still wrong. I see your point, although. You need to stick to terms such as what's called the agreement frame. I appreciate, and I feel. That way, you're not demoralizing or demeaning the individual. You're just saying, you're acknowledging how they feel and their point of view, and then you're also now going to soften that by then being able to present your own point of view. So I appreciate, I respect your opinion, and I agree. And this is, a huge tool. I can't say how much I do that, because you really need to acknowledge how another person is feeling, because if you, again, have that barrier up front, it's going to be really tough to break that down. So don't use the word you, because again, that's accusatory. It sounds like an attack. And again, an assumption has already been made whether you're right or wrong. You want to use I. I appreciate that, and I feel. I understand. I realize that. I recognize. Again, put it back on you. You'll be surprised if you dial down your pride and you are willing to let them know you're willing to compromise. You'll be really surprised when you say, I feel, or I appreciate that, and I acknowledge that. It's amazing how that can work. Or to help me to understand, that's another good one. So body language. You always want to convey proper body language. You want to mirror and match. So let's say someone comes up to me and they want to have a conversation about what you had for lunch. We'll just put something easy. And you tell me that you had turkey. So tell me you had turkey. Mm-hmm. You need to have an open face and not be like this and have your arms crossed. You definitely want to, because if you see the person there, they're smiling on their face, but their body language is sending something else. 58% of your message can be received either properly or improperly based on body language. So it's definitely a huge situation to be aware of. Your tone of voice, that's another situation. Your tone of voice, again, is definitely big and can be very diffusing if you do it correctly. Your posture, always stand up and look like you're paying attention, and you should be paying attention. And look at them in the eyes. I can't tell you how many times it drives me crazy to talk to people and they don't look at me in the eyes. And I actually want to ask them sometimes if there's something more interesting going on over here. That is a huge, huge one. Especially, it also shows confidence in yourself and what you're learning and what you can convey. So always make sure to look somebody in the eye. And be an active listener. Be there. Listen to what someone is saying. Again, don't look around. Be invested in what they're telling you. Repeat points or statements back to the other person. How many of you have been in a conversation with someone you don't think that they're listening, so you say, what did I just say? I do it all the time. So, they do listen, and they are, and that shows that they are engaged in what you're talking about. And take notes, if appropriate, to make sure you properly remember, especially if there's a follow-up involved. All right, let's practice. Practice makes perfect, right? All right, so just the first scenario. So let's say you finally get a job interview and with an industry leader in biotech. On the morning of the interview, you arrive 30 minutes early and zip into the parking lot. See a parking spot in the closest row to the building where the car is about to leave. And while waiting patiently with your turn signal on, you see a black BMW with a disheveled older gentleman in the driver's seat zip past you and right into your spot. That's usually me. So, no, I'm just kidding. So ticked off, you have to drive to the back of the parking lot in order to finally find a spot. You're irritated, you're kind of disheveled, and you enter into the IMEC building, wishing for an opportunity to give that gentleman a piece of your mind. And you get your wish, right as he runs into you at the entrance to the elevator. What are you going to do? You guys are so smart. Yeah, I agree. Don't say anything. Let it go. I mean, there are times and there are times not to, but definitely don't let it go. And why do you want to let it go? Why do you not want to say anything? You're exactly right. He was the vice president that you're going to interview with right after you chewed him out for the parking spot. So definitely know that there are times to address it and times not to. And another thing with being emotional about something, and this is, a parking spot is not the end of the world, nor will it ever be, but something that I do if I'm emotionally charged about a situation, this is kind of a side note, is let yourself have time to vent and be upset. Call your best friend, yell into the phone, you know, whatever you want to do, just definitely get it out, because then by the time comes where you actually need to address the situation, you're more rational, and you can definitely address it with a clear mind and be objective versus acting on your emotion. All right, scenario 2. You're the pharmacist in your Walmart pharmacy today, and a woman comes to the window and asks to pick up a skin cream that was ordered for her yesterday. Apparently, we don't keep that medication in stock, and it has to be ordered by the pharmacy. Your technician looks, and for some reason, the pharmacist on duty yesterday, Jeff, did not order the medication. And after promising to do so, Mrs. Rivera proceeds to flip her lid and object her wrath on the technician, Janet, who's trying to calm her down. You're in the back of the pharmacy. You can see this whole episode playing out in front of you. What do? Do you get involved? What would you do? And what do you do to try to make it right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, we've worked in pharmacy for a while. First off, I probably expect Jan to probably go up and take it if he's a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
But like, let's say you're another pharmacist or possibly a pharmacy manager, probably just go up, tell the lady you made a mistake. You probably try to protect the technician because they have, say it's
Right.
they're not going to do anything. And then probably just offer to either personally yourself for tomorrow or call the store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Exactly. Yeah. Same thing? Yeah, exactly. Obviously, as a pharmacist, we're all going to be in this situation, whether it's in a community pharmacy, a hospital pharmacy, a nuclear pharmacy, a clinical pharmacy, any kind of pharmacy, we're going to have a situation where it goes wrong. And I think as the pharmacist, as the leader of the pharmacy, it is best to step up and interject because you're the one that can do something about it. And you are the most trusted healthcare provider, so you're going to try to diffuse the situation, show them that their relationship is important, acknowledge the error, and then try to make it right. Don't ever minimize how they feel and say, well, I don't know what happened, I don't know. You can acknowledge that you're not sure what happened, but you're going to be able to take, I appreciate and I feel that we can get this taken care of. So in conclusion, I hope you've, learned what you are and how your tendency is to handle conflict today. I think that's very revealing. And also to know that, one man gets nothing but discord out of a piano and another gets harmony. So no one claims the piano is at fault, but life is about the same discord, and the harmony is there. So study it and play it correctly, and it will give forth the beauty. So again, knowing that conflict is going to be something that you're going to encounter makes you need to understand the importance of how to handle it. Because as a leader, you're going to have it all the time, and that will define you, and the change that you are able to make through that conflict will define you as a leader, and ultimately be able to take you to the next level. So, do you guys have any questions for me? You guys are great. You're an interactive bunch. I like it. No? All right, well, if you didn't get a jump guard, come get them from me, or I'll bring them around, and I appreciate you having me today, and it's great to see you all, and happy Friday. Thanks.